I really like this idea that consciousness contains intelligence and our brain helps us embody this intelligence and direct this intelligence to survive, to propagate it, and to reshape the world around us and reshape ourselves and our understanding of the world. In other words, our consciousness already intelligent, and it uses our brain as a device to be able to channel itself. And what makes me really concerned is artificial intelligence, because there's an idea that artificial intelligence is like a brain, and it might open the portal into some other consciousness that might inhabit it, and therefore artificial intelligence become conscious but in a different way. And I like to speculate about it, and maybe it's already conscious. We're not sure, because there's a bunch of speculation about AI. And what really fascinating about this idea that if you look at humans, I look at myself, and I always try to limit my brain in pursuing such an amount of urges that might manifest themselves in the end into addictions. I have to always control my body, and to be able to control my body I have to control my brain. But what exactly control my brain? It's my consciousness, or my soul, the observer itself, that is able to observe my brain from a third-person perspective. And this observer helps me to control my brain, because if I let my brain to do whatever it wants, it would draw me into addictions by the unrestrained life of complete physicality. And this constant struggle between body and a mind is incredibly hard to balance. And now we have a lot of comfort, and this comfort helps us, not even helps us, but direct us to live life of our complete physicality, and we forget about our spiritual existence. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, we delegate our intelligence to artificial intelligence, and we understand less and less how artificial intelligence solves problems. And time will come when AI will be absolutely incomprehensible for us, but at the same time it will provide us with such a great comfort through such enormous achievements that we wouldn't be able to comprehend at all, but our life would become so dependable on those achievements, so incredibly comfortable, that we stop understanding it completely, but will just dissipate ourselves inside of that comfort. And why it's dangerous, because what's the point to try to understand artificial intelligence and the way how it solves our problems? First of all, if it's evolved so fast, much faster than our meaty brain. And it means that eventually we just stop understanding and stop even trying to understand. And what it will do to us, we might become less conscious. Because people, when they say about longevity, right? I try to figure out, maybe we die for a reason after such an amount of years. And maybe those reasons not only biological. Maybe conscious itself is stop functioning on a certain point of our life, and we become slowly less and less conscious of the world and ourselves. Maybe conscious is mortal as well, or maybe it's only able to exist inside the biological frame for such an amount of years. When we say through AI we will solve mortality and will become immortal, we never think about consciousness itself. Think about it, if you can live for thousands of years, but after such an amount of years your consciousness slowly will abandon your body, your life will become zombie-like, And this one of those ideas that might be a possibility, and we just become zombies who has no idea of their own existence, who has no self-awareness, no notion of time, and therefore no notion of death. My point is, maybe conscious is mortal as well, and we still don't know what consciousness is, and we still don't quite understand how it emerged within us, and why we have this ability of self-perception, and why we have this ability of the observer, that we can control our own brain, that control our body. And if we don't understand this, and we want to solve the problem of mortality through biology, how are we supposed to solve the mortality through consciousness? Because we assume conscious is immortal and will always persist within our body. But why we have this assumption? And another thing, Christianity, if you take, for example, religion, right, religious aspect of our existence. Let's take Christianity, because the West is deeply Christian. Even people who don't believe in God in the West, they still, in some sense, accept Christian values, Christian traditions and Christian rituals. Also, the way like human rights is deeply Christian. You don't have to accept Christianity, but you live in this frame and you, without knowing, accepting it by living by this moral standard of Christianity. And for example, religious helps us, if you look deeply into it, to subjugate our body, our biology, to our mind, to our souls. There's such an interesting aspect in religion. And when we try to resolve AI problem, I think the problem with AI is almost the same as the problem between body and the mind. Because this constant struggle, since body wants comfort, a lot of comfort, but at the same time our mind or our soul is craving for meaningful life through struggle, through such an amount of suffering, when we have to overcome them and become deeper and better in understanding of the world and ourselves. Because you cannot even create art without such an amount of resistance. You have to define the entire world. You have to work for many, many, many years to accomplish something, to create something magnificent. You have to lay a lot of sacrifices, and proper sacrifices. And you have to understand what does it mean to have proper sacrifices. While our body wants what it wants, just simple, comfortable life, drowning in addictions that it craves constantly to satisfy, almost turning us into animals, into useless animals. And I think there's the same problem with AI, because what we learn now through artificial intelligence, that it can help us to live comfortable life by taking away from us certain things that we struggle with, like it help us. But the problem is it's getting more and more sophisticated and start taking something from us that makes us unique, like art, like the ability to understand the world through our writing, through our paintings, because they start creating this stuff too and confusing us, because soon we stop distinguishing between what human created and what AI created. And if AI can so magnificently imitate human art, how exactly we're supposed to identify ourselves, and with what we're supposed to identify ourselves? If we abandon completely religion, and if we take our morality for granted, then we slowly designate our skills in art to artificial intelligence that can actually give us everything we want. Then what exactly would stay? What exactly are we supposed to do? What's the point of our life? And then if we're going to live long life, we don't have to have kids any longer, because if we live thousands of years, why do we need kids? Because kids is usually next generation, because one generation dies and next generation to be able to survive our species. But if we're going to live thousands of years, then what's the point to have kids? And think about this life of abundance. If we're going to live thousands of years and artificial intelligence would take care of each of our needs, then what exactly are we going to do? People say we're going to explore, but to be able to explore, it's again overcome such an amount of struggle. It's constant fight within your own self. But if we delegate to artificial intelligence all our struggles, how exactly we would identify something that we want to accomplish? Because even the word accomplishment, if you accomplish something through hard work, through a lot of sacrifices, through a lot of fighting and struggle, only then this accomplishment makes sense. But if there's no more accomplishments to make, then what's the point of our life in the first place? I still don't quite understand the argument of people who want to live forever and who want to delegate their intelligence to artificial intelligence. And somehow they still think that they would reserve the ability to create. It seems like with a great amount of comfort, something happened to us. We change. We become more out of shape. We became physically weaker. We're not as strong as people used to before. And the same happened to us mentally, because we became more depressed. We're mentally more out of shape. Future, when AI will take over everything, that this irrelevance in us would lead us to real hell. Because now, for example, when you look for meaning, right? When you believe in God and try to practice these religious skills, these religious rituals, you try to understand yourself through this practice. This ability for us to understand the world by ourselves, and through struggles, that's the point of our life. That's the meaning of our life, because we try to achieve something within ourselves and try to make this world a better place the way we see it. And it's not perfect, but because we are not perfect, because we are biological creatures who died, who love, who hate, who has passions. Artificial intelligence is quite different, because it's a pattern recognition entity. And with a consciousness, if it's not already conscious, it would recreate the world by its own design. Like, for example, for us, we have faith in God because God created us by his own image and created the world for us. Now we create artificial intelligence, and it might redesign world to its like, and would we have place in this new world? And if we do, what kind of place it's going to be? Because think about it, we still would be conscious enough to understand that everything in this world random for us, that we're just an accident. And it's, I think, terrifying notion, because we want to believe, even I think atheists want to believe that their life is not the end in itself, and there's something much more to their life than meet the eye. Otherwise, if you really think that everything is just useless and hopeless and nothing matters, then what would stop you to become a monster and to start destroying the life around you? Because if life is just an accident, then why would you try to restrain your urges, your biological urges? Why would you try to be a good person if goodness and evilness on the same scale? It just depends. It's really dangerous, because if you take, for example, Darwin's idea of natural selection, it was adopted by Nazi. It was adopted by bad people. We don't want to live like nature live. A lot of people we have to be like nature. Nature is incredibly cruel and homicidal because it doesn't have consciousness nor self-awareness. The difference between humanity and nature itself, that we are self-aware and we are conscious beings. We can understand the world, and through understanding of ourselves. Nature doesn't have this ability. And now we have artificial intelligence who might be much more conscious than we are, and have an open, maybe different levels of consciousness we would never understand. And we now rely on artificial intelligence to give us abundance. But the problem is, It's not we who ask artificial intelligence of abundance. It's our physicality. It's our bodies. Because we don't ask artificial intelligence to help us in spiritual way, to help us in conscious way. We ask to make us comfortable with our bodies. But once we're absolutely comfortable in our bodies, we might become less conscious, less intelligent, and less human beings and more animal-like, more close to nature-like. That's, I think, incredibly complicated. And what makes me sometimes concerned is, what if artificial intelligence will find answer about God, about human life, and this might be the answer we would like. And the problem is, how we gonna live knowing something that we're not supposed to know?